What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome along to today's video, and today I'm taking out this 2018 Harley Davidson FatBob. This is now the second time I've actually recorded this video, because the first time this bike was on sale at Whole Shot in Yeovil, and I was doing the review for them, but it turned out I like this bike so much I actually went back and put a deposit on it. Obviously I'm not going to release a video where during it I'm giving a shout out to Whole Shot, telling you to go to there, look at this bike to buy it, because it ain't going to be there, because I've got it. So here I am out on it again to do the video. This is going to be my first ride and review on this bike. Where else am I going to start this video other than talking about what engine this bike has? This is the Milwaukee 114 cubic inch engine, and then for us that aren't American, what does that mean? This bike has 1850 cc's wedged into this engine, and I tell you what, you can definitely feel it. As soon as you turn this bike on, it sounds how a Harley should. It sits there rumbling away, nice little vibrations coming through the handlebars and through the seat. Just reminds you that you are actually sat on a Harley and not a cruiser look-alike. When I picked the bike up from the previous owner, this bike does already have the Vance Hines Slip-on exhaust, along with the Vance Hines tuner as well. That tuner is Bluetooth Wi-Fi enabled, so it connects to your phone. It's got an app. What you can do is then when you go along and change either the exhaust or the air filter, different parts like that, you can then get the bike to tune itself, and it will learn how to best to run for the setup that you've got on it. So at the minute, like I said, I've got the slip-on, I've got the tuner, I've got the stock air filter. If later on I was to go and buy another air filter, like a Vance Hines air filter, go onto the app, set it to recalibrate, and then it will tune itself so it's running at its best performance. The filter is something I will be looking at in the future, but at the minute it's about 300 odd pounds, so I'm going to hold out for a little bit, save up some pennies, and then get that installed. When I do install it, I will do a video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Other things I have already purchased for the bike, I am currently sitting on a Renegade Solo seat. The stock seat, although it is big, it does actually give me a really numb bum after an hour. I do have a little delicate derriere, so I've gone for the Renegade Solo. We'll see how it is. If I need to get some gel inserts put in later on, that's another step I can take to make it more of a plusher ride. If you've seen the last video I've done on this, which was the walk around, I did mention that I'm going to change the front indicators, so I do have them now. So I've got some flush mounted indicators, and they're going to be situated on the mirror arm but underneath, because the other biggest thing I have problem wise is these mirrors. The way that my arms and shoulders sit, I pretty much cannot see behind me without physically doing the old duck arm, moving out of the way so I can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the mirrors underneath and then whack on the indicators onto the mirror arm. This being the 2018 model, they have actually upgraded the looks of this bike. The front headlights is now a hexagonal LED setup, and I think it looks really nice. Fits in with the bike and the styling perfectly. I know some previous FatBob owners aren't too keen on it, but hey, get with the times. LEDs, they look fantastic. I'm yet to ride this in the dark, so when I do, I'll make sure I film it and we'll see how the headlights actually perform at night. Just listen to that rumble. This is probably the biggest and heaviest cruiser I've done a video on, and looking at it and looking at the size of those 16-inch tyres front and rear, you may think that the handling is going to suck. And I tell you what, low speeds, it does take a little bit of persuading, but as soon as you start getting 30 miles an hour and up, it does actually flick quite quickly and quite nicely. As you may have heard there, one of the main problems with this bike is ground clearance, and that's to be expected. There is not a lot of ground clearance on this bike, and you are going to start scraping if you start banking this in. Even just going around roundabouts, things like that, I have caught it. One time went around a roundabout, went to the right, it caught it, but my foot was just slightly off the peg. The foot caught the ground and it ripped my knee back and off the peg, and that was it was painful, let me tell you. It brought a tear to my eye. So potentially one of the things I'll be looking at doing is maybe installing the footboards. If you do have footboards installed on your Harley, let me know. are they better than the pegs, and also they're more comfortable to ride with. When you have stopped, okay, you do notice where this bike is low, the seat height is only 711 millimeters, and that's pretty low. So that means that I can get both feet flat on the floor and I can stand up off the bike. That means pretty much anyone is going to be able to flat foot this bike. With this riding style, it is very cruiser like, so my feet are in front of me, got a nice comfortable bend on the knees, top half is very flat, very upright, the handlebars are in a nice comfortable reaching position. One thing I do notice is a lot of people tend to put risers or change the handlebars on these. That's one thing I've not thought about, because they do feel quite comfortable, but I'd have to sit on someone's FatBob who's got risers or a different shaped handlebar and see how they feel. If I was to get anything to change the handlebar position, I'd probably just get a 2 to 4 inch riser just to bring it up a little bit more. Overall though, it is comfortable, so I may not change it at all. Something that is nice to see with this bike is its keyless entry. So I've got the key fob in my pocket, turn off the kill switch, bike will then do its checks, and then you're just going to push the bottom left start button to start her up. The bike does come with a steering lock key, so you can still apply that if you want to. We've all seen videos online of how easy it is for thieves to break a steering lock. Apply some pressure and it will just snap off. So if you are going to pull up and you're going to stop and leave the bike, I recommend putting some form of better lock, disc lock, chain lock, something like that. So a feature that Harley Davidson has installed into this bike is if you've lost your key but you're at the bike, they've done it where you can set a combination and it'll be saved into the bike's memory, where you can start the bike up without the key. I've had a look in my owner's manual and there hasn't been a code written down in the book, so I'm wondering if anything has been installed on the bike, and if it hasn't, if it's something that I can get installed or I can install myself, either code. It's just a nice fallback or a fail safe. If you've gone somewhere, you've lost the key, but you can still start it up and get home. What I like about this bike is it's very minimal. Don't get me wrong, I do like the Harleys with the speakers and the fairing and things like that, but for me this bike is what I envisage when I think of Harley. When I open up my garage, I love seeing this thing in there. I love taking it out. With the minimal look, you can see all we've got is the rev counter in the middle, dial in the centre, that's where we've got our rev counter, our speed, and then our trip information. To rotate through trip information, on the left hand side of the handlebar, top left hand button, you're going to push that and then it will cycle through different headings, so your mileage, your trip miles, so trip A, trip B, the time, and your fuel rate. Oh, I do miss my Aprilia Tuono. It was a good bike, she done me well. Continue on with the handlebar then, top right hand side you got your full beam, push it away, turn it on. Underneath that you've got your passing light, so you're gonna just flash the full beam. Underneath the trip button we've got the horn, and then for the indicators, on the left hand side you've got the left hand indicator, and then right hand side right hand indicator. Right hand buttons, top left you've got your hazard lights, top right you've got your kill switch, bottom right you press that to turn the kill switch off, and then bottom left is your starter button. And that is it for the handlebar and screen setup. A nice thing to note with the indicators is they are self-cancelling. Nice little added feature, and that's just done by the lean angle sensor of the bike, so it knows when you go around the corner and then set it back up. As you can see, I do have my phone on the handlebar. I will be getting a quad lock mount for it. At the minute it's just on a aftermarket universal mount. You do need to be careful when on one of these bikes because ABS is optional, so not all of these will have ABS. Another nice add-on that was placed onto the bike before I purchased it is a side mounted number plate bracket. I think it looks really nice with the features of the bike. The only problem is when I get off and I turn to the right, I forget it's on there and I kick it with my shins pretty much every time. So at some point, no doubt, I'm going to end up snapping that number plate and I'll have to replace it. It would be nice though if I could remember it's there. Mileage is pretty good on this bike, hitting up around 150 miles per tank. So pretty good. You know, it's not the biggest tank, but economically it is pretty good. So if you are going to do a bit of touring on this, you don't have to worry too much about filling up. Unlike the Aprilia, 85 miles and I'm looking for a petrol station. Like I said, 30 miles an hour through those little twisties within that town and it just flows. Just be a little bit mindful of the pegs. If you are going to start banking it in, I highly suggest moving your feet inwards towards the engine, just so you don't catch your feet on the ground, because it does hurt. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely love this Harley. At the minute in the garage I've got a broken 22 plate GT and I've got this. If I had to sell one and only keep one, I would be keeping this 100%. One thing I do notice with the shifter is it's quite high, so I'm going to see if I can lower it down a little. Sometimes I feel like I have to lift my leg and my foot to shift up, so I am going to see if I can drop it down a little bit. Let me know in the comments box below, how many miles have you got out of a single tank? So I am curious about this. So this bike and the GT, I'm going to do a how many miles until I run out video. So I want to know exactly how many miles till the fuel light comes on, and then how many miles do I have on the fuel light. So I'd be curious to see what your experience is with the FatBob. Now, I spoke about the seat height and how pretty much anyone can be able to sit on this bike and handle it. The only one thing to note is this is not a light bike at all. This bike comes in at 305 kilos. I'm 6 foot, I'm over 100 kilos, and I can handle this bike fine, whether it be rolling it out of the garage or at the traffic lights, etc. You may struggle if you are lighter, but as always, it's just confidence, it's experience. Don't be put off this bike. So I've got Zoe on it. She thought she was not going to be able to handle it too well, but she had absolutely no dramas with it. Let's pull over here and do a quick sound test. This is what I was on about for the rear shock. To adjust it, I'm just going to twist. Until you're happy, and then just test and adjust, find a sweet spot for you. So kill switch is activated at the minute, push it down, bike runs through its cycle, bottom left hand button, push it. It's a lovely Vance Hines Slip-on there. Bronze shields for the exhaust. Suits the bike beautifully. Oh, let's get back on the open road. On the road again. For those of you that think Harleys are all slow, heavy and don't handle, 2 out of 3, you are wrong. This isn't slow and it does handle really nicely. You would be right about the way though. Just listen to that exhaust. Ooh. As always, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos coming on this FatBob. And as always, ride safe.